You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Hello dear listeners, welcome to part 2 of this week's Achtung Millwall in the wake of that diabolical 3-0 home loss yesterday to Swansea City. This is part 2 of a double header this weekend, as always with the home games. We get quite a lot of voicemails. I really appreciate the voicemails. We've got quite a lot to get through in today's show, including a conversation I had with the creator of the live footage yesterday, Ben Anthony. So that's going to be up first, and then we'll follow it up with the various voicemails to complete today's show. But first, before we do anything else, you want your pundit games question, don't you, dear listeners? I know you're gagging for it out there. You're going to get it whether you're not gagging for it or not. We're in partnership this season with Pundit Games. Every game sold benefits the Lions Food Hub. Punditgames.co.uk. It's a terrific football quiz game, board game. Christmas is looming, birthdays loom. It's a great game for any social situation really. Football related questions, and today's example question, just to give you a taste of what kind of questions, comes from the genre of World Cups. This relates to a Dutchman who conceded a penalty as Holland went 1-0 down to Spain at the 2014 World Cup. He quickly atoned for this, however, knocking in Wesley Sneijder's free kick to put the Orange 3-1 up. He later made the switch across Italy from Lazio to Inter on a free transfer. So he would have played in the Dutch side at the 2014, was that Brazil, wasn't it? The World Cup, Spain versus the Netherlands, a 5-1 win for the Netherlands that day. Central defender in front of Jesper Kleesen, alongside Ron Vlaar, Bruno Martins, Daley Blind and Daryl Janmaat. Defender. Answer to that question will come at the end of today's show, dear listeners. But now I'm going to take you over to a conversation I had earlier on with Ben Anthony, then on to the voicemails.
Achtung, Millwall.
So it's a huge welcome on the show now to the creator of our live footage there. It's Mr. Ben Anthony. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Hello, Nick. Yeah, pleasure to be here.
We were just saying off air, mate, weren't we? It's a difficult show to edit this week, listeners, because we've got a huge amount of content, largely saying the same thing over and over. Yesterday's performance for me, Ben, I wasn't able to get to the den, which is unusual for me, but there it was. Lucky me. Well, do you know what? That was what I was just going to say, that it didn't bother me. And there's a problem, listeners, that, if I don't put myself above anyone else, but if Millwall fans start to not be bothered about going to the den or saying lucky, like you've just done there, there's a problem, mate, isn't there? Big problem.
Yeah, a really big problem. I've considered it myself a couple of times. Particularly, was it Wednesday night against Rotherham?
Yeah.
There was that sort of, I think was that the one where it was just absolutely hammering it down with rain that night, and it
chucked it down. Yeah,
I really, really thought about just going home and not bothering that night. Yeah, and I mean, I was always going to go today, but you add in the fact that there's train strikes and it's difficult to get there, and there's roadworks on the road everywhere. And you do start to think, when you're stuck in traffic with 20 minutes till kickoff, should I just turn around and go home?
But this is it. I mean, following a football club is never, it's not a story of glory, is it? I mean, we all know the score, but the number of people that I've picked up on social media, and these are seasoned, hardened fans of Millwall Football Club, saying the journey is whatever, it varies, a couple of hours worth. It can be more for some people driving in from various places. Is it worth it? And increasingly, there's a strong sense of that, because the performances that we've seen this season, Ben, have been at best wishy-washy, at best, or dire, like yesterday. And for me, yesterday was the worst of the worst, because to some level I could take getting beat 3-0 by Leeds, in the sense that that's an expensive, high-quality squad that they've assembled, and their quality came through. But yesterday, that was a makeshift Swansea 11. They're fielding an injury crisis as big as ours. Some of their main players weren't available to them, and we made them look like Barcelona out there.
Yeah. I think they had two top quality players out there. In my opinion, I thought Lowe was
Yeah,
by
yeah,
comfortably by a margin the man of the match. I thought, and
yeah.
I thought I think it's Rushworth, their goalkeeper,
He
had a
did
really
well.
good
Yeah,
game, made a couple
yeah,
of really solid, fantastic saves. But
yeah.
beyond that, I'd struggle to remember anything the other players did really. I don't think that they're that great. The league
No,
table sort of showed before yesterday that I think they were one above the relegation zone. Um, but yeah, we did make them look good. We There's a weird feeling at the moment with our team. I've seen some comments online as well saying it that they look like a bunch of individuals that don't know how to play as a team together. And I
yeah,
don't
I'd
know
agree
whether
with that.
that's
Yeah,
instruction or whether that's just who they are and where they are at the moment. But there's particularly with when we're facing an attack, there's that sort of backing off, and it feels like a kind of there's lots of pointing at other players, and it feels like a kind of I'm not taking responsibility for this. That's your responsibility, and it sort of ends up with no one taking responsibility. Um,
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that, and I think and the repeat theme of today's show, listeners, as you would have picked up already by now, is the Gary Rowett question. But I believe it starts from the top, Ben, because I was listening to Rowett's post match comments, and he refers to a lack of leadership on the field. I can't remember how he put it now, but it's words to the effect of poor decision making and lack of leadership, on field leadership from senior players. I agree with that that far, but that the way he was describing the squad was like as though it's a unit of players that's been imposed on him from some other place. This is a group of players that he's put together, so he has to take the primary responsibility for this because the lack of drive, that it's a very un-Millwall side at the moment. Absolutely no one seems to give a toss. And everything you've just said is true. I mean, it's this kind of diversion of blame. No one picking up the torch and running with it, and that's fundamentally that's the problem. I believe it starts from Gary Rowett personally. That's his style.
yeah, and who are the leaders on that pit? Who would we expect to be those leaders? Cooper is obviously, maybe Murray Wallace.
Yeah.
But for me, the voice in that squad, other than obviously we're missing Hutchinson, I feel like is George Saville. I feel like Saville is somebody who is in the middle, could actually have a bit of a voice, and he was talking a couple of weeks ago about knowing what it is to be a Millwall player and him feeling at home at the Den
Mm.
and saying all of the things that you'd expect to hear from a proper Millwall player, and he's on the bench. He, can't.
I don't know what the cause of that is. We're in the realms of speculation, so I don't know. But to have a player of Jill Saville standing sat on the bench when quite clearly what he would bring is missing from the side out there, and that's drive and determination. And you know, once we went 2-0 down yesterday, even at 1-0, Ben, I thought the game felt like it was out of reach for us. So we never really looked like we were going to score a goal. Lots of pot shots from distance that were well wide or wayward. One or two efforts late on once we were well behind. But I don't know what the problem is with George Saville. I don't understand. I don't really understand how Gary Rowett can describe a lack of leadership and not include himself in that sentence, because he sets the tone, doesn't he? He's the manager. Um, and so there we are. Huge week in front of us now, mate. We've got a difficult trip to Plymouth on Tuesday night, and then another tough home game against Hull before the international break next week. There was clear booing. I was watching on stream yesterday,
Hmm.
and the booing was clear. I mean, you were there. I'm going to guess that the opinion was voiced freely on the merits of Gary Rowett yesterday at the Den.
Yeah, the chants were there. The
Yeah,
Gary Rowett, your football is shit, came out. Particularly after the second goal, that's when that started. Um,
yeah.
Not many people were left to watch the third goal. It got pretty quiet. But yeah, so there, you could tell that the crowd are really fed up of this.
Yeah.
And I did look over at the bench when all that started, and Rowett was just sort of sitting there. He wasn't doing anything, you know.
No, no.
And I know the Norwich game, there was a gesture towards the fans, wasn't there? And that didn't go down well. So maybe he's just sort of,
No.
I'll just sit it out and do nothing. But I don't know. It feels like it's growing a little bit toxic. And I think you're right. This next week is vital. I mean, how many times have we said that before? And he's gone and got a 1-0 win somewhere, or
Well, he's got a knack of escaping from the clutches of. It's like one of those old time Saturday morning movies. This is one for the real older listeners out there, where each week the heroine would be tied up to the onrushing train and somehow would get out of it in the start of the next episode. He's had a habit of being able to do that over the course of his career at Millwall. I mean, there's been a few occasions where the crowd has been on the brink of turning against him, and then he pulls out somehow. He gets real and somehow turns it around. I think Saville must return just purely for the reasons we've said, the lack of leadership that's on the field. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that Bart at the moment. I mean, that was a terrible mistake for the second goal and really put the game properly outside of us. It was actually. I mean, also what we rarely talk about Jake Cooper. Really, because I think he's become such a part of the furniture at the Den. But Ben, I think that Jake is a lovely bloke, but I don't think he's the brightest of buttons. That was a really stupid penalty to concede for 1-0 because Murray Wallace was covering him behind him. And he's tugged on the shirt right in front of the referee. It's fundamentally unintelligent. That's a big problem for us. We don't seem to have... Defensively, we don't seem to have much guile in defence.
He's very lucky that Murray Wallace was there, because I think if he wasn't, I think that was a red card.
Yeah.
It was incredibly stupid. There were a few who sort of missed it, and I think a few in the crowd wondered if it was a penalty or wondered what had happened. But there were enough around saying, no, that's pretty blatant. It became, it was pretty obvious from sort of the mix of reactions that that is a penalty. And positioning was off. He had a really poor game yesterday. His positioning was off. The second goal, he was nowhere as well. And then by the third, everyone had given up, I think. So it wasn't a good performance from the back line, other than maybe Leonard, because Leonard just shift in whatever game he's playing. But he can't do it all on his own.
No, I mean it's a bit of a damnation of this defence really, when Ryan Leonard, who is at best a stand-in midfielder standing in defence, is repeatedly our top pick for for that unit. Really, it speaks volumes.
Sorry, Nick. I saw that comment at half time, asking the question: how shit is Wes Harding? Because
that's a good question. That's a good question because he didn't look very shit at Birmingham, Ben. I can tell you that much. He looked pretty good.
Yeah, we just haven't seen him really. It's very odd. Like he's like the forgotten man.
I mean, from what it was only he came in. Was it halfway through the first half when I think it was Hutchinson had to leave up there? That was the first time I'd seen him. And he looked all right. I mean, I'm not saying he's the new Maldini or anything, but he looked pretty solid as a championship level defender. So this is one of the problems, and this is, I mean, we've touched on George Saville, we've mentioned Wes Harding, because what lies behind these decisions not to play these players? All week we've been reading about Murray Wallace not being fit for Saturday. Then suddenly, lo and behold, he is. Same with Kevin Nisbet up front, who really didn't look on it for me yesterday. So the whole kind of the Gary Rowett selection is questionable to say the least. I mean, it's hard to understand why he's not picking these players when they are fit, and over players that are touch and go, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm at a loss a little bit. Either the squad just isn't good enough, and those players that in and around the first team just are absolutely not good enough, or they've got they're doing something wrong in training. There's an attitude or something that's stopping them from being selectable.
There's certainly a vacancy for a leader in the squad. If for whatever reason George Saville is not being picked for whatever reason, I can't fathom that one out, listeners, then someone else needs to step up. Whether that can be the likes of Denor or Fleming, I don't know. They may still feel themselves to be outsiders in the squad to some level. Not so much Fleming perhaps, but no, we're screaming for someone to not tolerate this current malaise that's going on at the moment.
Has anyone seen Fleming? Are we considering putting up some missing posters around the den or something? Where's he been?
It's fascinating. I don't know. I mean, he's disappeared on us, isn't he? He's the player that we thought we had. We should have sold, as many have pointed out, should have sold for 12 million to Burnley. Has turned into a player we probably couldn't give to Bromley at the moment. I'm not sure they'd want him in their side because they're doing better. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of Ian Fleming. He drifted through yesterday like I might go for a very slow jog around the park, listeners. That was Ian Fleming running around the den yesterday. There was nothing there. This bit I don't think was fit enough to start. But then why are we not? We've got some real talent sat on the bench, Ben. We've got Imarku. Whether you want to play both the boys from the start, I can understand why you might start one and bench the other one, or Imarku to start perhaps, and Esse on the bench. But when you consider the level of talent we do have, and they're just not getting the game time, it raises huge questions. I think that Gary Rowett's got a huge week in front of him. I can't see many going down to Plymouth, so that's one thing. But next Saturday is going to be a huge game at home to Hull City. He can't afford another display like we saw yesterday because it will turn. Every message I've had on this show, listeners, is the same over and over. And his time is up. He's run out of road. He's at the end of the Charing Cross line. The buffers are there. Where do you stand, Ben? Are you for the chop, or are you still willing to give him time?
Well, I said a couple of weeks ago that it's always about that sort of 12-game mark that I think those sorts of decisions can be made. I think it's too soon to make a decision before then. But looking at it, I think the 12th game is next Saturday.
Because 9, 10, it'd be 11th. The 11th is next, but then we've got the natural break of the international. But 11 or 12, take your pick. That's a kind of quarter point, isn't it?
If you count in that cup game as well, that is 12 matches this
year.
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
It's not been good. I'm not enjoying this season. I mean, bloody hell, you don't have to give me some shit games to talk about, Nick. I've had Reading, Norwich, and this one. They're all of them painful. So
Ben's going to not be taking my call soon, listeners. You're going to have to listen to me on a monologue. Oh dear.
So there's not a lot for me to be positive about at the moment. So I think if we can't win these games, or certainly, and actually even with a win, I want to see a performance as well. Because
more important to see a performance, in my opinion.
A lucky 1-0. It means it's sort of worthless. It doesn't actually help our situation, really. It doesn't change anything. So we need to see some sort of either adaptation to tactics or adaptation to performance to give us a little bit of hope in the next two games. But I'm what's the word? Like skeptical that we're going to see it.
Yeah. I think we're probably done, Ben. Huge thank you for taking time out your Sunday to join me on the show, mate. I'll try and liven up a decent game for you next time. Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. Every day, it is true. Every game you've covered for me has been utter pony so far. Big thank you, Ben Anthony. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure, mate.
Achtung, Millwall.
Okay then, big thank you to Ben Anthony for taking time this morning to speak to me. Next up, dear listeners, we've got quite a selection of voicemails. Huge thank you to everybody that's sent in voicemails to me. Makes a big difference to getting a variety of voices on the show, which is what I like to do if I can. If you want to take part in this, dear listeners, you can either send me a voicemail on Twitter. There's a little squiggly line that you press and speak into your microphone of your device, and it will send a voice note that way. That's one way you can do it. Or if you're a trusted person, if you're going to be sensible, give us a shout. We'll exchange mobile phone numbers. Don't send me porno links or nothing like that, though. I'm too old for all that, dear listeners. But no, send me your phone number. We can exchange numbers, and you can WhatsApp me your post-match thoughts or any other thoughts any other time, to be honest, Millwall related. Always welcome. So anyway, first one up today, we're going to listen to Jim Hackett. Go with it, Jim.
Morning, Nick. Jim Hackett. Just commenting after yesterday's game. Really difficult to sum up, wasn't it? It was a tepid performance played by really a passionless, energy-less team that unfortunately was put out. The game started at a very flat sort of rate for us, and following that we never sort of upped the tune at all. Even going goals down, we never looked passionate enough to get back into the game, and the chances we had, some good chances as well, we just didn't finish. And even in the box, I don't think we did anything that was sharp or quick or sort of ruffled anybody. And Swansea were there with a poor back line, I thought, and with a bit more passion, a bit more sort of fight. We could have easily got something out of that yesterday, but it's going to keep going back to the same old thing. If there's a lack of leadership off the pitch, there's a lack of leadership on the pitch. And when you looked at the team yesterday on paper, it didn't look too bad, but once it got going, it showed a real lack of fight. And the probably 2 or 3 players that I felt a bit sorry for yesterday. Leonard again, the lad he's a one-man band at the moment for the club. He's showing how valuable he is to us in a position that he was never brought in for, but at the same time he's sort of giving everything he can for the shirt, and you can see it in the way he plays. And I think Denor is another one who's come in. He does his role and gets on with it. He shows everything that we're looking for in our players, and sets a great example. And apart from those, I thought Watmore was a little bit busy. Second half, definitely he showed a little bit more buzz around the place, but we need goals from him as well. So you can take everything away. It's that ability to put the ball in the net that was sort of sadly lacking for him yesterday, but it wasn't for lack of effort. As for the rest of them, I think you could look at the goals we conceded, the stupid shirt ball from Cooper. It's not the first time he's done it. He is an accident waiting to happen, and as much as he's a good defender when he's attacking the ball and he's sort of putting his challenges in, it's those little incidents that show why he's playing at Millwall and why he's never sort of made that move to a bigger club. And I thought the second goal was obviously it was a Bart's type of goal that maybe 2 or 3 years ago would never have gone in. Now, I mean, he's got the same goalkeeper coach as George Long, so I don't know if that's got something to say to it, but we're just waiting for things to happen, aren't we, at the moment? And that's sort of summed up our day. And the third goal was interesting for me because it was Esse who gave the ball away in the centre of the park, couldn't get back, and then 2 seconds later it's in the back of our net. And that showed to me why Esse can't yet start games for us, because he hasn't got the experience, and he hasn't got the sort of nous that you need in the position that he can play. I think if we're winning games, and the Rotherham game was a prime example, if we're winning games like that, he can go on and have a good run at it and show what he's got. But yesterday's game, he didn't bring a lot to it. He's got lovely little tricks and flicks around the opposition of third, so we've got to try and get him in there, not expect him to come on and change a game from a position where we're struggling anyway to put passes together. I think that unfortunately all the information after the game that I'm reading on social media is all about wanting Rowett out and his time's up, and this is where he's got us, and we're stagnating, and if anything we're going backwards. Well, again, I've never been one to say Gary Rowett out, and I probably still won't do, because I think it's not as if he's not doing his best, but I think his best at the moment is either overthinking things and not able to communicate well with the players. But whatever it is, they're not playing to a system. They're not playing with any passion, and they're not playing with any fire in their bellies, and that's the one thing we're after. I think it's that leadership somewhere within the club. There's got to be a leader, and I think on the other side of the coin, if Rowett was to go, who do we get in? Again, I'm not too bothered in the immediate sort of future, because I think if Rowett did go and they got rid of him, I think Nugent could step in that role on a temporary basis, and do it for a couple of weeks whilst they looked around for somebody who is out of work. And there's plenty of decent managers out of work that I'm sure will jump at a chance of coming to manage what is a good squad of players who are just playing badly. And I think we're going down that road that possibly we went down before Rowett did come in, where we had a decent squad who just weren't firing and they weren't being got the best out of. So hopefully, if it does go that way, we've got enough in Nugent to steer the ship for a week or two and then get somebody decent in. But I can't see it going any other way now. I think our recent results at home have really shown us where the future lies, and I'm sure Gary Rowett, if he's got anything about himself, be looking at that and thinking, what can he do to change things? And it's not as if he's not had the opportunity and he's not really taken it. And the worst thing is that we're all watching it unfold, knowing what the end result is going to be. It's just a matter of when. Oh well, go on you Lions.
Big thank you, Jim. Always interesting stuff from Jim Hackett. Few points really. Yeah, the Rowett out one is. I mean, I've never liked calling for managers' heads, listeners. I always think it's a reflexive, knee-jerk, immediate problem. Simple solutions to complex problems. I think the issue. And for me, I have reached that point because I don't see Gary Rowett having the repertoire of skills to try and turn this situation around. Why this decently assembled group of players? I mean, I don't think we're world beaters in the Championship division, but I do think we're a decent squad. Why they're not playing for him, I don't know. Whether that's a personality thing, that they don't believe in Gary Rowett, I'm kind of inclined to think that is what it is. He's made some quirky decisions, isn't he? Not playing Jules Saville, the Wes Harding thing we've mentioned on other shows. So I don't know. I think possibly the personality issue will be the thing that this does rest on. He badly needs a result at Plymouth on Tuesday, and then something out of the game next week. My main criticism, I think, of Gary Rowett is that he doesn't exploit the massive weapon that is the Den. In fact, he's done the complete opposite. He's wasted it. Interesting stuff about Esse as well. That it was his mistake that led to the break for the third goal, and it was interesting to see how quickly Swansea got that ball in the net from one error in midfield. That's what we didn't do at all yesterday, is exploit their errors. But good stuff from Jim Hackett. Big thank you. Next up, we're going to go to Angelo Mediotto.
Hi, Nick. It's Angelo here. Right. I wanted to split it into the call today, yeah. First of all, I want to talk about the match, yeah. Forget about the Rowett stuff for now, yeah. I don't know if I'm going crazy, yeah, but I actually thought we played all right today, yeah. And I've looked at the stats, yeah. We had 50% possession. We had 22 shots today compared to Swansea 7. We had 5 on target. 7 on target, sorry. I think they had 4 on target. We had 7 off target. They had 2 off target. Bart's made 2 saves. Their keeper's made 5 saves, yeah? We've missed 2 chances from 2 yards, which one was Watmore. I was right behind that. And then obviously Nisbet has to score when he's smacked the ball straight into the goalkeeper's head, yeah? So, if I'm a Swansea fan, I'm thinking, you just won 3-0 away at Millwall, yeah? They were shit. At the end of the day, we've given away a stupid penalty. Obviously, I haven't seen it back, but I've heard that it was a penalty. That's Cooper tugging on the guy's shirt, yeah? Bart's made a mistake for the second goal, which was crucial, because obviously when you go 2-0 down, then it's an uphill struggle. And then obviously Esse makes a mistake when he gives the ball away. So, penalty, 2 mistakes, yeah. I think we played all right, yeah. And if we played that game again, there's no way we lose. There's no way we lose that game. So, you know, it's frustrating that obviously we lost and fucking everyone's shouting about Rowett and all that, but I can't blame Rowett today. Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm going to row it in, but I can't blame Rowett for that 90 minutes, yeah? That's down to the players, yeah? We had enough chances, we had enough shots, we had enough clear-cut chances. Nesbitt, I thought, was very lacklustre with a few of the shots, that chances that he had. I believe that it's not down to Rowett. The game, the 90 minutes today wasn't down to Rowett, yeah? And then obviously, you know, the second part of this call is obviously everyone shouting for Rowett's head. It frustrates me, yeah, because, you know, I've got guys behind me like screaming for players to shoot from 40 yards, and yet when they shoot from 40 yards, then they get stick, and then it's like all Rowett out chance start again. Do you know what I mean? So I just don't know how we lost that game today. I really don't know how we lost that game. But, you know, with the Rowett stuff, I don't know. You know, maybe the players do need a new voice. I don't know. You know, maybe it is time. But he ain't going to walk, and we're not a sacking club. So we just got to, like, just get behind the team and try and support them. And, like, you know, all the idiots, mate, just constantly singing route your football shit. It's boring, mate. Just get behind the team. Get behind the team and... it just annoyed me today because I actually thought we played all right, you know. So yeah, bit mixed up. Maybe I'm going mad. I don't know, Nick. Maybe I'm going mad, but I thought actually we played all right. You know, and the statistics show that we played all right. 22 shots on goal. And we haven't got one in the back of the net, which is just fucking crazy. But Cuffy, I thought he deserved to come off, mate. The geezer doesn't really give us anything, in my opinion. And but anyway, I don't want to go into the individual performances. But yeah, on to next week and see what happens at Plymouth. But yeah, it's just frustrating, mate. But look, it's so sad seeing the ground empty like that towards the end, mate. It's just like it's embarrassing. But we have been tanked more times this season than we did. You know, in the first 6 weeks of the season, we've been lost 3-1, 3-0, 3-0, 4-0. It's not on, is it? Anyway, I'll leave it at that because I've been nattering on. And come on, you Lions.
Interesting take from Angelo. I kind of hear you, Angelo. I don't know that I can agree that we played all right because the stats, 22 shots, that passed me by, that number of shots, because they must be classing some very, very wayward balls as shots there. But the fact we didn't get anything in the net is in itself a damnation of the performance yesterday. Where I do agree with you is that whatever the rights and wrongs or the pros and cons of Gary Rowett as a man, as a manager, I reckon that, you know, it comes down to the players that take the field. Now, you know, even if you don't necessarily believe in the team instructions you've been given, or you don't think the manager knows what he's doing, I think I said to, I think I said in the other show to Graham that's a common theme that runs across all football clubs at whatever level. Everyone believes they know more than the manager. It's part of life, isn't it? But you do owe it to that manager to give the best that you've got to give. And I don't know that we're seeing that. I think it's dead easy, and it probably will be Gary Rowett that pays the price, because that's the nature of football management. You know, you carry the can for the failings of others, don't you? And it's easier to sack the manager than it is to sack a whole squad. But I do think there's something in that. It's the players that are going missing for him on the pitch, whatever the best tactics are. And I'm not going to sit here and say what the best tactics are. I'm not that way minded, to be absolutely honest with you. But I do know when I'm watching wishy-washy, tepid, I think was a word used by Jim, football, and that's what we've been seeing. So big thank you there to Ange. That was an interesting take, mate. I do appreciate that. But next up, we're going to go with Joe Chats, all the way from Chicago, followed by Big Paul.
Joe from Chicago here. I hate them. I don't know why they have to be like this. It was always nice to know that the Den would be, you win at home. Instead, Millwall have turned into a racetrack for other teams. 1 or no goals in 9 of 10 matches this year. Ugh. This team is not fun to watch. Rowett is a stubborn bastard, and I don't know what he's going to do. How bad is Wes Harding that he's not been on the pitch? I mean, if Murray Wallace wasn't healthy, they might as well have thrown Harding out there with the match midweek, and he must be terrible. Bart, what a howler to give up. Just dreadful. Duncan Watmore, please stay on your feet. Just once play through a challenge. That's all I ask. Just one time play through a challenge. I just want to see if he could do it. This team is breaking me. It's not fun to watch. Ugh. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend, because that was just a terrible way for me to start mine.
The best part of today was watching it indoors, and when it was buffering, that was the most enjoyable part. I don't want to talk about tactics because I'm not a manager and I don't got a clue about football, if I'm honest, but I know one thing, it's getting fucking tedious to watch, and it's zapping the life out of the place, out of everyone I know, and I think it's time to call it a day. I mean, you look, there's no like fighting that side. You look, you want to see a bit of fucking blood and thunder on the pitch, like I said earlier. There's nothing. It's just fucking 11 lads just walking around the pitch, and you know what I mean? It's just fucking diabolical. And for me, that's down to Rowett. We've got some good players there that I think under another manager, you know, listen, under Harris, we might criticise there's no plan B and whatnot, but we went out to win every game. 90% of them. Anyway, fuck. Have a good evening.
Fantastic stuff from Big Paul and Joe Chats there. I love the line about buffering, Paul. I kind of know the feeling there, mate. And I always picture Joe in Chicago sending us these languid messages with a martini and vermouth in his, the dressing gown or something from the Swish Hotel somewhere in downtown Chicago. Big thank you to both of you chaps. Let's have a listen now to one from a show regulars, Neil Fissler. Let's have a listen to Neil's message.
I'm actually fed up of hating Saturdays. 6 wins out of 22 at home is absolutely rancid form, isn't it? And the worst thing is, he just sucks the enjoyment out of football and watching football with just such negative tactics. That said, you can't legislate really for Jake Cooper being an utter and pulling somebody's shirt, or Watmore missing from 5 yards, Nisbet missing from the same sort of distance. Fleming is either robbing a living at the start of last season or has been badly affected by the decision not to sell him to Burnley in the summer. Looks a pale imitation of the player that we thought he was. Maybe he wasn't that player. Maybe he's probably the most weak-minded individual that's turned up at the Den for a very long time, but doesn't deserve a place in the team. Doesn't help when your goalkeeper is a utter liability. But what really gets on my tits, and my tits are bigger than Jordan's, quite honestly, we've got 2 of the most exciting players we've seen at the Den in many, many, many years, in Eze and Amarco, and he's just so reluctant to use them, and if he does use them, he just doesn't use them right, does he? So, unfortunately, Gaza, I think it's time for you to fuck off.
It's always colourful, but you've got to love him. You have got to love him. That's Neil Fissler. Big thank you to Neil for sending that in. I agree with the misuse of our talent, Neil. I don't think Gary Rowett quite knows how to handle players of some flair and some hunger, for them to be sat on the bench, particularly yesterday, where these were qualities that we lacked through the whole game. We were playing Nisbet up front, who for me just didn't look fit enough to be playing. He should have been rested. But for Amarco not to feature till late in the game is shocking management, and for that reason alone, there are always debates online as to who you're going to get in and what good will a new manager do. But I do think that a new manager will come in with a blank slate, and the likes of Fleming, who's become a bit of a sacred cow at the Den, is not justifying his place at all. And I think, to be honest, defensively as well, we could do some new bodies in defence, because you're right about Jake Cooper. Very, very stupid, unintelligent move yesterday to concede that first goal. And as soon as we go behind in any game, but yesterday particularly, you just couldn't see a way back for us. So great stuff, Neil Fissler. Next up, let's have a listen to Matt Richards.
Oh, Nick, Matt Richards here. Just giving you my thoughts on the game the morning after. I think I was too depressed to actually send anything over yesterday. And that's how I feel, really depressed. I know everyone's kind of calling for his head, like Rowett. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, if he left, it wouldn't be the end of the world for me. But I don't think it's as cut and dry as that. It's my own personal opinion. Yesterday was I don't think we played that bad. We lost 3-0, which is the depressing thing, and it's results that count at the end of the day. So, it's pointless saying we played well. But if the amount of chances we had, if we put 1, 2, 3, any of those away, we would have won. And, Swansea weren't that great. It was a stupid penalty to give away by Cooper. Bart's made an absolute cock up for the second goal. And we're giving the ball away in midfield. This is it. You got Romain Esse, great player, love him, great potential, but he gives the ball away carelessly in the second half, and it's 3-0. So bad mistakes by key players. Can you blame Rowett for that? I don't think you can, but it's results, and results at home have been poor. I'm not worried about the entertainment. I don't know where people, lots of people going about entertainment. I mean, blimey, I go to Millwall to see us win. That's entertainment for me. I've been going down there for nearly 50 years, and I can tell you on like two hands the amount of times I've actually been entertained in seasons. It doesn't happen that often. I go there to win, or to see us win, and that's the problem. That's why I'm depressed, because we're not winning. But yeah, is it Rowett? Yeah, okay. It's his responsibility. He's the manager at the end of the day. He needs to fix this, and he needs to fix it fast. I'm surprised the crowds aren't against him. Maybe it's just, people said it's apathy, don't know. But even yesterday, losing 3-0, and still the crowd didn't really turn. It's a strange situation, really. Not to paraphrase Elton John. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Depressed. Something has to change, and change fast. I don't think it's just Rowett. I think the players need to take responsibility as well. But yeah, onwards and upwards, and something needs to change. All right, cheers, Nick. See you, mate.
Big thank you, Matt, for that. Interesting take. Depression is it saps the energy, and I must admit that's a common theme. I felt it. You must have felt it yourself, listeners out there. I don't know if I agree about the entertainment part. I know what you mean, Matt. Obviously, winning in the end is the best entertainment of all. But I do want to see some blood and thunder at the Den. I think that's the thing that's missing at the moment. I don't know that Gary Rowett knows how to supply that. For that reason alone, I think that a change of voice at the top is looming sooner rather than later, in my opinion. I mean, we've got the week ahead is a difficult one. A trip to Plymouth on Tuesday night. Today's Sunday, as I record these words. And then another really tough home game versus Hull City. As we've said previously, Gary Rowett's shown a great talent in his time at Mill for getting himself into the hole and then getting himself out of it again. Whether he can get out of this particular hole, I don't know. He does need the players to step up. I think he also needs to start to pick players on merit rather than for whatever other reason. I mean, why George Saville's not playing, how Fleming is starting when he's not justifying it. These are questions that would occur to the squad as much as they do to us sitting in the terraces. So big thank you to Matt there. Let's have a listen now to Jim Littler.
Hello Nick, it's Jim. I didn't make it today because I'm absolutely full of cold, mate. Feel like shit. Feel even worse now after watching that garbage. Just walking the dog. There's a distinct smell of horse shit in the air. I think Garrett must have come to my neck of the woods. I've been saying it for ages. The bloke's got to go. He's the way he's setting them up. And these people that are sticking by him, you're absolutely, I've said it before, you're deluded. The bloke has not got a clue. He has took us as far as he can go. And the bloke's just got to go. The problem is he won't walk. So, James Berylson and the board, Kavanagh, if you listen to the Mighty Podfathers podcast, we want him out. Simple as that. We want the bloke out. He's killing the club. He's sucking every bit of life out of our club. And he's got to go. The only plus points today, I thought, actually, Watmore did all right. He was the only one who was really trying up the top. Defence were terrible today. Absolutely fucking Cooper was having one of his Cooper days where he just loses the plot. Obviously, we know about Bart. I think his best days are over. Definitely at fault for the second goal, and then obviously question mark on the third goal. But it's not about the fact we're conceding goals. It's the fact we ain't scoring goals. And we ain't scoring goals by the way we set them up. Yeah, we had a few chances, but there's just no passion on the pitch. There's no one on that pitch who is really forcing the players to go forward, looking forward. Even Casper Denore, I think, has been really good since he joined us. I think he's starting to get the bug. He's starting to get the bug where he looks up and he sees nothing going, so he goes back or side. It just ain't good enough. Plymouth away Tuesday. Good luck to any of you going down there. Fuck that. I'll be down for Hull next week, but fucking hell. Another Saturday ruined. Thanks, Rowett. Cheers, Nick. See ya.
Hi, Nick. Hi, listeners. Just a quick reaction to that dreadful performance at the Den. I just got in, coming up to 8:30, made myself a cup of coffee. We live down on the south coast. We left home this morning at 10:30 because we park up in Mercury Way. And, thanks for a lovely Saturday, Millwall. Fantastic fucking effort. You useless fucking cunts. That's all I can say, right? That is so embarrassing. I don't care getting beat fucking 4-0 at home. I remember in the 70s, right, when Notts County beat us 5-2, I was here with my dad, right? But what I don't want to see is heads going down after a 1-0 penalty, all right? Now, you either fucking shit or get off the pot. I'm so fucking annoyed, right? So fucking annoyed. That is just an embarrassing, disrespectful way to treat the fans and to treat yourselves, players, all right? Where's your leadership? Where's your resilience? Okay, you get a floppy penalty given against you for shirt pulling on the edge of the box. The guy goes down, wins a penalty, and you all just drop your heads and saunter back to the halfway line. Not fucking good enough, all right? See you later.
Raw opinion from show regular John Rankin there. I don't blame you for feeling that way, John. You're coming up from the south coast. A lot of fans travel long distances to get to Millwall. It ain't an easy place to get to, especially when there's strikes, especially when half of London is being dug up all at once. I was reading, I think it was Joe from that Millwall podcast saying he's got a 2-hour drive to get to the Den. It goes on and it goes on, and people don't go to the Den expecting to see Galacticos taking the field, but they do expect to see Millwall, and that's a team historically doesn't take defeat lying down. It doesn't give it up. And may not play the best football in the world, but will certainly give you 100%. And we're not seeing that at the moment. For me, that floor starts from the top, and by the top here I mean Gary Rowett. I believe he's been given plenty of backing by John Berylson, partner now sadly departed, but also by his son James Berylson. We've got players in. We've got a decent squad of players in the side, but there seems to be no sense of the collective from them. There's no sense of team about them. I presume that can only come from the manager, because when I listened to Rowett, I was listening to his post-match interview with Mill TV yesterday. He's a divert. He's a professional media operator. He's always talking about somebody else, never himself. And I don't think I would get along with him in a working environment. Not that I'm ever going to make a professional footballer now, but you know what I mean. There are some people in this life that you can take to, and others that are slippery. And I think that's a problem. I think the world of football is a raw one. But authenticity is sensed, and I think that Gary Rowett's problem is that the players don't believe in him. That's once you can't just create that. For that reason alone, I think he's got to go. But big thank you to John. I feel your pain, mate. I do know where you're at after a day out like that. Next up, we're going to listen to Adam Wicks.
Hi, Nick. It's Adam Wicks here, just leaving my thoughts after watching us lose 3-0 at home to Swansea. I'm sure you're going to get a deluge of very similar voicemails calling for Rowett to go, and I can't blame anyone for thinking that. Just on the game, I thought we were pretty well in it till they scored. Ridiculous foul by Cooper for the penalty. We had chances, we didn't take them. Nisbet's finishing was well below what we've sort of seen from him. He could have had a couple of goals today. Then Rowett seemed to change the formation, which completely nullified us going forward. He made some changes at half-time. We had a bit of a flurry. Then they scored again, and after that we were finished. It's really not good enough at the minute. He's killed the crowd. It seems like he's killed the team. They don't look like they're enjoying playing football. I don't see any leadership from anybody. I don't see any leadership from the sidelines. The crowd can't even be bothered to remonstrate with him. We've got to that point. I never thought I'd see the day that the life was sucked out of the crowd to the degree that they couldn't be bothered to let the team know and the manager how bad they've been. I would have quite liked Rowett to have left after the Blackburn game with a thank you very much, and us to have moved on. That was the time to do it. I think knowing the club as they seem to operate at the minute, I can't see them getting rid of him. So I imagine we're going to be in for some mixed fortunes, eventually culminating with him going at some point, maybe November, Christmas time. I can't see things improving. We've just got very little about us, and we just don't look a threat at all. Combine that with some very dodgy defending, not great keeping, players that can't play for more than 3 or 4 games without getting injured. It's just a recipe for disaster. Someone's going to have to take responsibility for it, I think. Onwards and upwards to Plymouth. They could either smash us to pieces, or knowing Rowett, he'll pull a result out of the bag and live to fight another day for a bit. But we'll see, won't we? Anyway, come on, you Lions.
Big thank you, Adam. Just been making a few notes as you've been talking there, mate. I mean, the sacking thing, we've said it many times on many occasions that Mill as a club is not run as a ruthless operation. The very phrase makes me laugh as I say it, because I think, and I include our fan base in this, we are not a ruthless, despite the fierce reputation of the club and everything else that's comes with us. I don't believe we're a ruthless club. We don't get rid of people at the right moment. You know, great teams move on at the right moment. And I think you're right. After the failure against Blackburn a few months ago, with a decent squad of players, the time was right for Gary Rowett to be told sayonara. We're going to get somebody else in that can make that next step. I don't think Gary Rowett, I think he's demonstrated that over his football career. He gets you so far, and then he stops. And this is where we're at the moment. We're at the stop point. I think he probably should have gone after the Blackburn 3-4 loss. But we don't do that. We don't operate as a ruthless business. We are sentimental. People start going online talking about bringing back Steve Morrison, Kevin Muscat. It's this kind of need for the familiar and the comfort of not taking a chance and breaking into something new. But we certainly do need to change it at the moment. It's not acceptable. This run of form can't continue. That said, if the crowd don't react, if people just tolerate it, then maybe it can continue. I don't know. I think next week is going to be crucial. Can he get a result at Plymouth? We'll never bet against him. And the whole game next week is going to be a huge one because it's home form where we struggle. Anyway, on to the last two voicemails. First one's going to come from Matt Webb, and then we'll finish with Sam Treby. Take it away, Matt.
Nick. Fuck me, I'm done. Today was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. That was dire. Everything from the starting lineup to the substitutions just smelt wrong. We played a team who have only won one game all season, and we play one semi-fit striker up front with Watmore, Fleming behind. It was shit. Then we go 1-0 down. Stonewall penalty from my side. I actually said to my dad, he got away with that. And then seconds later, the referee gave it. Stonewall pen. And then we went in 1-0 down. Swansea are fucking boring, and that we dropped down to their level. We didn't raise our game. Second half, the subs were made. One full-back off, put another full-back on. Bryden Vlongman. Another full-back off, we put our attacking midfielder in SA at right foot full-back. What the fuck was all that all about? An exciting young prospect, and we stuck him right wing-back. Christ's sake, what on earth has gone on? And then we concede a piss-poor second goal, and unfortunately the blame lies with the keeper. Handling was atrocious there. No one's fault apart from Biakovsky. Once then, confidence has been shot. By that time, the changes were made to put Emaku, another striker, left midfield. What the fuck is all that all about? And then the third goal went in. I'm telling you, Nick, I've tried to be positive, but today I can't. Fuck off, Gary Rowett. Get out of our club. You've got no tactical nous. I'm done with you. And if it weren't for my son wanting to go to football week in, week out, I wouldn't be going to Millwall. I really am done. Might be the emotion after the game, driving home, but that's how I feel. Why should we, as Millwall fans who spend shitloads of money all season, home and away, be watching the shower of shit that's on that pitch that has been managed by a tactically inept manager who hasn't got not one attacking bone in his body? If he's so defensive, why are we conceding so many fucking goals? It's absolutely shambolic. I really am dreading every time I go to Millwall. I feel sorry for the poor people that have to go to Plymouth on Tuesday night because I am expecting an absolute mullering from at their place. And lo and behold, I am dreading the fact of going to Millwall next Saturday. But something's got to change, and I'm in the camp now of get Rowett out, get Rowett's entourage yes men out as well. Fresh faces, fresh ideas, and maybe someone with a bit of an attacking nous. Have a good week, everyone. Let's hope it don't rain tomorrow. Up the lines. Somehow.
You're right, Nick, it's Sam. It took me 3 hours to get home after that today. And I'll keep it short and sweet. It's embarrassing from top to bottom. I don't know what they're getting taught in training. I don't know how certain players were even on the pitch, if I'm totally honest. There wasn't a player out there really that looked like he actually wanted to win today. It seems to me like we're taught, go 1-0 down, sit back, go 1-0 up, sit back. There was no fight. Second half, there was 2 breaks in play, and some of our players had the cheek to go and have a drinks break. I mean, that's the contempt these players have got for us, because for me, that wouldn't happen before. They wouldn't be having a drinks break because they don't deserve a drinks break. They never broke a sweat. I said it at the beginning of the season. We're going to leak goals because any team that can hit the target, we're going to concede. 3 goals again today. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I really don't. Because on paper, we've got a really decent squad. But we just don't look like we even want to entertain scoring a goal. Or when we get that into the park, we have no ideas. And, you know, it gets to the point where we're calling the linesman out and the referee, but let's have it right. That was a penalty. And why are we not calling out the fact he even got into that position to get the penalty? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like I think we're sort of hoodwinking ourselves into blaming other things, but really in reality, those players out there, they don't deserve to wear that shirt. There's players in the past that have been, on paper, not even half as skillful as half of them, and they've put in more of a shift than them not have today. I could go on, but for me, it's going to be hard to start going down there like for the whole game, if I'm totally honest, to drive 2 hours to go and watch that, because I have a lovely day until that first whistle goes off, and then the football ruins it. I don't know when that day's going to come when I'm walking out there saying that was brilliant, because I can't remember the last time I said that. Oh, anyway, doom and gloom, mate, but I don't know. I was going to say things can only get better, but I can't say that because I don't think they're gonna.
Big thank you, Sam. Big thank you to everyone that's contributed to this show. It's been a depressing show, 2 shows, to be honest with you, dear listeners. And I think that's the really soul-destroying part of this current period that we're going through. How long will it go on for? I don't know. I don't personally believe that Gary Rowett has the tools to turn this situation around and produce a style of football that's going to start getting us goals and therefore start winning matches. I have reached the point where I think he's got to go. I get that it creates a problem for the club in that A, you've got to pay him off to get a shot of him, and B, you've got to try and hunt round and find a new man. Both of which are things that certainly finding the new man is not a thing we do naturally. We don't seem to be mentally geared up in terms of the staff of the club to find that a very easy thing to do. But that's where we're at, I believe. I don't believe this squad of players are going to play for him. That raises questions over a lot of them as players for me as well. I'm not going to repeat a lot of the judgments made across the board. I agree pretty much with everybody, one way and the other, across these 2 shows this weekend. So I'm going to close it there. We'll be back in the week after the trip, God help us. The game, rather, at Plymouth. I'm not going to go down there, in case I gave you that impression. I'm going to be watching it on the telly for my sins. I will be, hopefully, God willing, inshallah, going to the home game versus Hull City next week. Touch wood, rabbit's foot. And we'll do a report back from there. But finally, I've just got to complete the question. The pundit games question I started the show off with. I've got to finish it. This was a Dutchman, central defender, conceded a penalty when Holland played Spain in the 2014 World Cup. He conceded the penalty, but then scored a free kick later on to put the Orange 3-1 up. They would win it 5-1 in the end. He would later move from Lazio to Inter in Italy on a free transfer. The player's name, answer to today's pundit question, is Stefan de Vrij. Vrij, V-R-I-J. Stefan de Vrij. Check out the game punditgames.co.uk. It's a great quiz game. And every box sold, as it's Christmas coming, benefits the Lions Food Hub. You can do a lot worse in this life than support the Lions Food Hub. Thank you for listening, dear listeners. Apologies for the depressing show. Till the next edition of Achtung Millwall. Arrivedeci Millwall. Bye for now.
Achtung, Millwall.